Hello, my name is Ellie Gettinger. I'm the Education Director at Jewish Museum Milwaukee, and I am delighted to be with you today um, for this museum moment. This is our last museum moment before Passover. And so today, as we are thinking about Passover in a time of crisis, I decided let's look at some other times of crisis and how community has responded, what they've done. So I wanted to start with one of the longest running functions that the Milwaukee Jewish community has managed, and that is to do something called Moed Hitim, which is giving food to the needy for Passover food specifically. And the origins of this as an organized Milwaukee Jewish initiative is 1909, but it's been happening well before that. As soon as there were Jews in Milwaukee with needs around Passover, this process started. And in the 1920s and 30s, there's a lot of documentation about this in the Wisconsin Jewish Chronicle. So I'm going to share my screen. Let's see how it works. There we go. This is the appeal from the 1928 Wisconsin Jewish Chronicle. And this is actually, in the 1923, they're serving like 60 people. In the 1925, it's like 70. It's kind of a slow and incremental process. Here you can see that it's 90 deserving families were assisted, and they also gave Passover food to inmates at community institutions like hospitals and jails, that they were ensuring that all of these people were also provided with food. Now, needs change and grow. This is 1928, right before the Great Depression. So if we look at this the next year, or actually 2 years later, I went one too far, in 1930, the needs are that it was 90. I'm sorry. So 1930, it was 90. In 1928, it was 60. So there's already a growth in that time period. 69 in 1928, and they also provided them all with $10. In 1930, it's up to 90. And by 1936, kind of the height of the Great Depression, they are providing food for 250 families. So they're finding a way to respond to the needs of the community. This weekend, under the leadership of a bunch of different Jewish organizations, including Jewish Family Services, the Milwaukee Jewish Federation, Tikkun Ha'ir, a huge number of groups come together to ensure that the community has Passover food. They provided meals for 500 people and $18,000 in funding to support the needs of the West Side, which is really amazing. So I'd like to think that we're part of this continuum, that we are continuing to ensure that Passover happens for everyone throughout our community in all sorts of different ways. As we're starting, now we're thinking, so that's one set of crisis. How do we respond to Passover during the Depression? We make sure that people are able to have Passover. In the Great Depression, we make sure people have Passover now. When you think about something like the Holocaust, that's a very different sort of. I'm learning the new ins and outs of this system. Let's see how people are feeling. If there's any chats coming in, do I see that? Or maybe I don't. So what I would say as we're thinking about Passover and the Holocaust, that's a very different set of extreme circumstances. How do people observe Passover during the Holocaust? Is there any observance? There's some amazing pieces that I discovered as I was thinking about this particular topic. On Yad Vashem's website, they have a wonderful exhibit about Passover before, during, and after the Holocaust with wonderful pictures, some of which I'll share with you as I'm continuing to talk today, from Passover experiences during the Holocaust, which is kind of hard for us to imagine. And one of the things that really made me start thinking about Passover and the Holocaust was Rywka's diary. So this is the diary at the center of our current special exhibit, The Girl in the Diary, searching for Rywka from the Lodz ghetto. And her diary begins in October of 1943 and ends in April of 1944. And the diary actually ends right after Passover. And so her last kind of real ruminations are about Passover and preparation for Passover and what it means to observe Passover when you've lost so many family members, so many people are gone. And it's a really interesting kind of rumination on what Passover looks like in the Lodz Ghetto. It gave me an insight into this. And then it also gave me this kind of broader sense of how people are reflecting on Passover by looking at the exhibit on Yad Vashem's website. So I'm going to read a couple of passages from Rywka's diary. And the first is just a logistical kind of passage where she's talking about the logistics of getting matzah. In an earlier passage, she talks about making matzah, and she says, point blank, she says, tomorrow, and Passover is coming. Passover is coming. Unfortunately, I'm not looking forward to it as I did every year before the war or even during the war. I'm overwhelmed by horror thinking about it because we'll no doubt be starving. And she goes on in a later passage to describe that that she says, I have little time. Yesterday, after receiving the first ration, Astucia stayed home, but nothing happened. Last night, we were baking matzahs. Minya and I were rolling them out. That's her cousin. Last year, we were baking them too, but what a difference between those two holidays. First of all, last year, we had more flour, more strength, and even the weather was different. It was pleasant and warm, even hot. And today, oh, it's more like winter. Everything has changed. They predict a hot summer. Let it come quickly, faster. But I'm not going to spend my time writing about it. We came home at 3 a.m. and for this reason, I did not go to work today. So she really, in this way, is talking about rolling out matzah, which I think is unexpected. And even in that year-to-year difference from Passover the year before to Passover this year, that she is already experiencing a marked change in how much food she has, her ability to do this work. So her family is making matzahs, but there also is an interesting note that she describes a little bit later, where she says, because of the holidays, there is a lot of commotion, but not everything is positive, unfortunately. Yesterday, those who registered for matzah didn't get any bread. So if you registered with a ration card for matzah the week before Passover, you had to pick up your matzah, and then you didn't get bread. And it meant that you were sacrificing your ration, which was so necessary in order to observe this Jewish practice of eating matzah only on the holiday. It's really a remarkable statement. They can starve for a few days or eat matzahs. Well, it's not so easy to be a Jew. At every step, there are difficulties. And I think it is this really kind of fascinating thing. One of the last passages of the diary is about her feeling about Passover, observing Passover when her father is gone. She writes, I have so much to write that I don't know where to start. Well, never mind. It's the second day of the holidays. How was the first day? How was the Seder? The Seder, how could it be? Nebuch. Nebuch means terrible. Oh, Daddy's absence made our life miserable. The Seder without Daddy, but not only without Daddy, without men at all. Last year, there were no men either, but our aunt was here and she could replace a man because she was an adult and she knew a lot. But today she's gone. The Seder was celebrated by Yastushia, and it's true she did very well, but, oh, this but is so sad. God, was I really at fault that you punished me so much? I have friends in the workshop who have fathers, but their fathers don't celebrate the Seder. But why? I could have had the Seder if only Daddy. Oh, God, this is what it's like in the world. And it's this emotional plea to be together with family, to share this time. And while we're not experiencing this in the same level of stress that Rywka was, we certainly are experiencing the stress of not being together with our family and experiencing a different sort of Seder this year. A few pictures of what Passover in the Lodz Ghetto looked like. This is giving out of matzah. This is a group of men giving out matzah. And this is actually a matzah factory in the Lodz Ghetto. Oops, sorry, I need to actually share my screen in order for you to see it. Let's try that again. There you go. This is what a matzah factory looked like in the Lodz Ghetto. And I mean, it's just amazing to me that under this kind of duress, people would make the time and space to create, to make their matzah. This picture is from the collections at Yad Vashem, and as I said, after I finish, I'll post this wonderful online exhibit. So please, as you're having your seders over the next couple of days, your sedarim, please share them with us at Jewish Museum Milwaukee. Hashtag share my Seder. We want to see what's different this year. How is this Seder different than all other Seders? And we would really love to make this a community record to be able to show what looked different, what was different, what felt different in 2020. If you've enjoyed this Jewish Museum moment, please consider making a donation to the Jewish Museum Milwaukee. And we appreciate all you do in the community. Have a very good holiday.